We believe that we can reopen in the fall and ensure that everybody is safe and secure. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to involve that we rethink every single aspect of what we do.
In March of 2020, colleges across America were faced with a difficult decision to send students home in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, not knowing when students would be able to return. Faced with the unprecedented challenge of deciding how to reopen campuses in the fall of 2020, colleges were scrambling. Early on, Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts, committed themselves to continue in-person learning in a safe and responsible manner. Though there were many uncertainties in order to bring the students back to campus, Northeastern knew they had to do something big. So they dedicated themselves by investing $50 million in building a state-of-the-art in-house testing center, which allows for every student, faculty, and staff member to be tested multiple times a week and contact traced. Northeastern also invested in an NUFlex teaching model to cut down on classroom density and allow students to learn both remotely and in person throughout the semester. NUFlex allows students and professors alike to determine daily whether or not they will attend classes in person or online, lowering the risk of infection on campus. By implementing countless new safety measures, Northeastern embarked on a journey to instill a sense of responsibility within the Northeastern community to protect the pack. A large factor of Northeastern's reopening success was their dedication to effective and transparent crisis communication. By keeping students, faculty, parents, and staff in the loop, Northeastern eased tensions surrounding returning to campus in the fall of 2020.
It's like a cliche that, it's a great team to do this, but by golly, it took a team. My name is David Madigan. I'm the Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs at Northeastern. I have never been engaged in anything as complex as this in my life. It was clear that testing was going to be a centerpiece. That it was also clear that the testing was not going to be something that we could send the students somewhere to get. They said, we can build our own lab to do the testing. So we did both. We set up a swabbing center on campus. We set out to build a laboratory and to get it certified by the state and by the FDA. And that took place in a few weeks. It was just breathtaking to see this unfold. We took a decision early on to build this on the Burlington campus because it was just, the space was more amenable.
My name's Ken Henderson and I am the Chancellor at Northeastern University and the Senior Vice President for Learning. We've built the capacity within Cabot Cage to run over 10,000 tests a day, so to have the flow of people of well over 10,000. And then similarly up in our Burlington testing centre, that capacity has been built to be over 10,000 tests a day. So we're really pleased and delighted by that. It was a completely new enterprise for the university. Tremendous hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people hours into building those facilities and expertise to do that.
Almost all of the time, happily, the results are negative. Then, of course, when somebody tests positive, that triggers a whole other operation that we had to build from scratch, which is the whole contact tracing operations. We have a contact tracing team that works with Boston Public Health, but we do our own contact tracing of for our own community. But the complexity is pretty amazing, and to see this happen from nothing in the late spring to a fully functioning world-class laboratory and system, in that kind of time frame is quite extraordinary.
I've been really impressed with the testing infrastructure. So the faculty get tested at least twice a week. So I teach twice a week. So every morning when I come in, the first thing I do is get swabbed, and then I come right to class. I've never experienced lines. It goes really smoothly. The staff seem to be very professional. The turnaround time for results is amazing.
I love the testing facility, and as a public health researcher, I think it's very inspiring. Every time that I go to the testing facility, I'm surrounded by peers, by students, and there's something really nice about witnessing all of us getting tested together as a community. The online test scheduler has been very easy to use. I think it's a very user-friendly system. I receive alerts reminding me to schedule my tests. The facility seems to be open for a wide range of time every day.
You have to schedule the test and then do a daily wellness check. The daily wellness check is just like if you have any symptoms and if you've come in contact with anyone who has COVID. And then you come in, they scan to see that you have a test going that day. And they take your temperature. It's pretty well spaced out through the entire cabot. And then you go to a little testing table where it's you and 2 other students, and you just pull down your mask, you still cover your mouth, and you do just a swirl of what essentially a Q-tip in the nose on both sides. That's the end of it. So it's really not a long or hard process.
I come to the campus regularly still. So every time I show up, I make sure that I log into that nice little app and declare that I haven't touched anyone with COVID to my knowledge and stuff like that. And then I straight away I go to the testing service.
We have literally hundreds of people that are employed and engaged in running the testing, both the collection facility in Cabot Cage and Huntington testing facility, and then also up in the Burlington testing facility.
I definitely think getting tested every 3 days, me and everyone else who goes here, has raised my confidence level and my comfort level being on campus a lot and hanging out with my friends. Especially, we get our test results pretty fast, usually within 24 to 36 hours.
One of the most challenging things of the pandemic, of course, you want to be wearing PPE, you want to be socially distancing. I think one of the most important things in combating the spread of COVID is being able to frequently test and being able to do contact tracing. And I think that one of the most impressive aspects of everything that Northeastern's done around the reopening and around NUFlex has been to establish, with a massive investment, a testing center in Cabot.
I would say I'm very happy with the way that Northeastern has handled it in terms of putting testing first. I think testing was always at the forefront of Northeastern's mind, and that's something that makes it unique compared with other universities. The amount of tests that we're doing and the short turnaround time in terms of getting a test and then getting results, I think is something that really sets us apart from other institutions as well.
Turned out later the Broad Institute said that they would be available to test samples. So we negotiate a contract with the Broad just so we'd have some resilience. We could send samples to our own lab or to the Broad, depending on the what was going on. It's a very resilient system. So if anything goes wrong with our own LSTC, we can send the samples to the Broad and vice versa.
Back in June, doesn't seem like that long ago, it wasn't absolutely clear what our testing regime would be, what kind of testing we would do, how often we would do it. Those decisions had to be made in a very short period of time until between June and August in order to execute upon that. And that's because the science was changing very quickly. So what I see moving forward into spring semester is we will still have testing in place. We will still have a lot of the restrictions that we've got in place right now. The use of masks is not going anywhere. That is going to be a requirement.
We did have some discussions with some national laboratory chains. I won't name them, but you know who they are. And they couldn't guarantee us that they could have the kind of turnaround we needed. So, getting, and we have models of all of this, in terms of what the spread would be on campus and off campus, as a function of how much testing we do and how quickly those test results are returned. And basically, if you don't get the test results, if you're not getting the test results for 3, 4, 5 days or a week in some cases, it's pretty much useless. In a sense, the damage is done because your period when you're infectious is not that long. So it's not much good to find out a week after the fact that you were positive a week earlier. What
could change though is the technology we use. So right now we use PCR testing, we use nasal anterior swabbing, but you're seeing the rapid evolution of technology to do fast turnaround testing, potentially daily testing. You're seeing the use of things like little strips that you can use to test. If we could get to a stage where you could do daily testing in a very simple way, that would be a game changer, not just for Northeastern, but indeed for society.
NUFlex is Northeastern's hybrid teaching model, where students and professors decide weekly to attend classes remotely or in person. A system allows students that elect to attend classes in person to do so based on classroom capacity and whether or not the student is in compliance with Northeastern's testing standards. Classrooms are outfitted with new technology, like cameras and microphones, to allow professors to teach students in person and online at the same time.
I do believe that Northeastern is putting student learning first, particularly because they are giving students the option to attend classes either remotely or in person. And I think this room for flexibility is really critical right now. Flexibility on behalf of faculty, administration, and the students. So it's the sense of we're all working together to be flexible and to make accommodations for students who need it. But from my perspective, I do believe the NUFlex model really is designed to prioritize student learning.
I'm currently teaching my classes in person, or I guess in the NUFlex hybrid paradigm. So I'm in here, there's students in the room, and there's maybe 60 or 70 people on Zoom as well. So why am I doing it this way? I guess I felt an obligation to the students. If people were willing to be here and be in the room, then I felt like I should do it too.
I'm teaching them remotely. I chose this approach because I've been told I'm high risk, although I don't feel high risk, but I've been told I'm high risk, and I didn't want to take a high risk. So I'm teaching both sections remotely, which is a new experience for me.
I've chosen to go with a fully remote mode of teaching. The NUFlex was one of the options. It was the primary option. And then I went fully remote. Basically, the reason for that is that I have a 5.5-month-old daughter who is amazing, Nora, and she unfortunately has been a little bit medically complex in her first months of life. So just to be out of an abundance of precaution, I suppose, I wanted to do fully remote in order to make sure that she was safe and she wasn't exposed to any risks or anything like that.
I'm currently teaching my classes in person, and I decided to do it this way because I really felt safe with the NUFlex model and felt as though Northeastern had provided a safe infrastructure for teachers to return, especially faculty members who were in a position where they could do so.
I did seriously consider teaching remotely. I have young children. If something were to happen to my wife and I, who would take care of them? That would be a really bad situation. On the other hand, my daughter is going to in-person preschool now, so there's other vectors for infection in our house. Given the testing infrastructure here, how much additional risk am I taking coming here for a few hours and standing 20 feet away from people? It didn't seem like it was significantly altering our risk profile.
I did consider teaching in person in the fall. As a professor, I love being in class. I love being around the students. I love interacting with them, before class, after class, during class. And that's something that's a huge perk of what I do. That's a huge perk of my job, is being able to interact with them. And it was a very difficult decision for that reason. But, ultimately, after considering it, I felt like I had to keep my family's health a priority.
So the two of my professors that elected to completely teach their courses online have handled them phenomenally. In fact, I think that those professors worked in a very specific way with Northeastern over the summer to make sure that transition into the course being completely online was handled in a very professional way and in a way that wasn't detrimental to my learning whatsoever.
So I've actually been very impressed with Northeastern University's preparation of the faculty for transitioning us to remote teaching. I actually felt a little overwhelmed by the amount of resources that they were providing us with.
I love the fact that they provided enough resources for the faculty to learn how to do this remotely. They promised the faculty that anybody who was high risk could teach online, and they did not renege.
But transitioning into fall was relatively straightforward for me. The university, I think, did provide a lot of information about how the hybrid format would work, the various technology they were installing in the rooms, the expectations around things like the move to Canvas, how we would coordinate everyone because everything needed to be asynchronous. I mean, I felt like I knew what I needed to do.
What that ended up looking like is the Center for Advanced Teaching and Learning through Research, Chancellor, they put out a number of lunch and learn discussions that they helped us learn how to use different tools. They put out modules that we could go through at our own pace and sort of learn how to use Canvas, see what the tools that are in Canvas have to offer, things like that. Learning the ins and outs of Zoom, what you can do with it, how you can break people out into rooms.
So some of the challenges that I've faced in teaching completely online through Canvas is the pacing of the content. To condense that into a format online that students could digest in a way that wasn't overwhelming, so they weren't experiencing Zoom fatigue, or I teach health communication, so I don't want my students like sitting all day in front of a computer, making sure that they're taking breaks, that they're not feeling overwhelmed. So structuring my course in a way that provided them with a nice amount of work so that they felt fulfilled and like they were learning and getting as much out of the class as they possibly could without fizzling out too quickly. Was really important to me. So that's been a challenge.
The privilege of being in computer science is that we're all on computers all the time. So historically, all of our coursework and projects, it's all been online. So having people asynchronous around the country isn't really an issue for us.
We've gotten so used to this Zoom culture now that students feel a lot more comfortable saying, hey, can I just pop into your office hours? Or do you have time on Friday that we can sit and chat about the last quiz? So that's been nice. So I have been getting kind of one-on-one time with students.
So the hybrid format isn't ideal. I like to be very interactive. I'm constantly asking students questions, and I like to be able to read the room and see if people are kind of getting what I'm saying. And obviously I can't do that when there's only 10 people in the room and 70 on Zoom.
I do miss those playful exercises that I had. I had card games, I had Legos, I had survival exercises were online as well to a certain extent, but you can't use many props anymore.
Visiting breakout rooms is a little bit less efficient than scanning the classroom and seeing somebody raising their hand. And people can request you to come to their breakout rooms, but if no one's doing that and you're going through one by one, it's a little bit less efficient than it is in the classroom. I don't think it's negatively impacted learning per se. It's just made things a little bit slower in terms of being able to get through the material.
We had a wonderful opportunity where we invited the director of social media from Northeastern to come in and talk. And I think this is another silver lining of the pandemic, is that by teaching online and by using Zoom, we're able to have more, or I'm able to invite more guest lecturers and speakers than I would have otherwise. It's just easier for them, again, to pop in, and hopefully we can sort of keep this format moving forward.
I was excited to come back to campus. I missed being away from the students, and I missed being away from the Northeastern community when we all went remote in the spring, but I've been confident with the protocols that Northeastern has put into place.
Crisis communication has been an ongoing endeavor for Northeastern to keep tensions low and trust in the university high. It's been a big factor in students and faculty returning to campus and complying with university policies.
Communication obviously then is going to be centrally important in terms of getting the message out as to how this is going to work.
I think in terms of communications about reopening, about everything, it's important to kind of take a step back and recognize that the pandemic is a hugely complex situation, and any effort to manage that is going to be equally or more complex. And so I think the important thing is that whenever there was information to be communicated, that was given to us efficiently and effectively. Was the information always there when it was immediately wanted? No, because it's responsive.
In my field of research, I'm actually engaged in a project right now where we are harvesting information from Instagram, from the official posts from the CDC and the World Health Organizations, from their accounts, and analyzing how they communicate about COVID. So I have some experience and some expertise in evaluating risk and crisis communication related to COVID-19. And I have been not pleasantly surprised. I've been very impressed at the level of attention to detail that Northeastern has given to communicating effectively about COVID-19.
So what do you do to prepare for crises? We talk about 4 R's that are related to crisis communication. They are relationships, reputation, responsibility, and response. They went out of their way to establish relationships with the faculty members way in advance, to explain what they were doing and how they were doing it, and even at times saying, hey, look, we're not sure. This is a fluid situation. It could change.
I think Northeastern was forthright in saying that plans could change. They acknowledged times when plans were tentative, when plans might have been up in the air. So acknowledging those kinds of changes and uncertainty is important.
When the pandemic was starting in the spring, I think that was when communications were probably the worst. But I mean, that's kind of expected. It was the beginning of the pandemic. No one really knew what was going on. And then I was surprised, I remember in the summer, not hearing about anything, and then all of a sudden hearing that like we will definitely be back on campus. And it didn't, at that time at least, I didn't have a lot of information about how they would make that work. And so I was a little nervous at the beginning, and I didn't feel like I had a lot of information about what was going on. But then once school started coming closer, and we started getting the understanding of what the requirements were and how like the testing center was going to be set up, I think since then communications have been a lot better. And I never really am worried about what's happening or what's going on now.
At the beginning of the pandemic, I was teaching risk communication, and we were following how things were unrolling or unfolding in China, and looking at how the World Health Organization was communicating, how the United States and how certain organizations here, including the news media, were covering the issue. And as it started kind of encroaching on our community, those conversations became more frequent, more in depth. Related to COVID-19, they were way ahead of the curve in terms of getting information, valuable information to students. Another thing that we noted in those kind of review sessions of official communications from the university was that they were acknowledging, well, they were empathetic, right? They were saying, we know that students are concerned. We know that there could be some stigma around particular students on campus who may be already wearing masks, and we want to prevent that from being an issue. We want to encourage everybody to be engaging in these like early hand washing and social distancing measures. They were communicating with faculty on a regular basis about this and making that clear that they were supporting us.
There have been so many forms of correspondence. They've reached out to us through email. They've posted helpful information on social media. They've been constantly updating their website. And so I think having those multiple resources and multiple sources of information is really important.
We get letters on a regular basis from the university explaining what's new in terms of our COVID response. I think I get one once a week. That's a letter that's a summary of what's taking place. I don't always study them, but it seems like they want to keep us informed.
I think that in terms of the reopening plans, I think a lot of that was conveyed to us as soon as the information became available, and that was kind of at all levels, and that started even at the tail end of the spring semester in terms of getting everyone on board, sharing best practices for teaching remotely, and it continued through the summer just to kind of sort of keep morale up, even just to keep people in constant contact with the people we normally see on a daily basis, but also to communicate that critical information about, hey, this is the big plan, and this is how we're going to proceed, and this is how we're keeping everyone safe, and all of that, just to sort of get everyone on the same page and make sure that we all have the information that we needed.
One of the key elements of a good crisis communicator is being able to provide timely, up-to-date information. We all expect information to change, again, just due to the changing nature of the virus and the circumstances. And I think Northeastern has done a good job of recognizing those changes that need to be made, but still providing information in a timely way.
So one thing that I think a lot of people were struggling with at the beginning of the pandemic was acknowledging that we didn't have enough information yet, right? And that I think the university did a really good job at telling us that this was the state of the science, that the science was evolving, that their approach to the pandemic would be evolving, and then they were keeping us frequently updated with the newest information that they possibly had.
You want to make sure that your communication has a feedback loop. so that in crisis communication, you're not just sending information out, you're allowing stakeholders to communicate back to you. You don't want to ignore your internal stakeholders. Lots of times organizations think it's only the media, it's only the external stakeholders that are important. Hey, the students are very important. The faculty members are important. The people who cook in the kitchen are very important. Those are your internal stakeholders, and you can't ignore them.
I have probably run well over 50 town halls during the COVID period. So we've used town halls really for two main purposes, both communication purposes. One is for us as senior administrators of the university to communicate out to all the various communities at Northeastern. And then secondly, communication inward coming. So that is listening to the community and what they've got to say. The second piece is this communication coming back to us. We have found this enormously useful as a listening device.
Back in May, I was actually invited by the president and the provost to speak at one of the town halls, and I thought it was a really great forum. It provides a sense of unity for the faculty and creates community, and just like the students, we're all feeling this sense of social isolation. We're used to being part of a broader community at Northeastern, and I think by bringing the faculty together on a regular basis, whether it's in a workshop for the Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning, a department faculty meeting, a town hall hosted by the president, just feeling like we're in an environment where there are other people like us who are troubleshooting these issues that are coming up every day as we're learning how to navigate the situation has been really wonderful.
I think Northeastern has done a great job with social media and its social media campaigns, and it really has emphasized this mentality of protect the pack. And the sense that I get from students is that they do take it seriously because of this mindset that's been created to help all of us look out for one another and to keep everyone accountable.
Northeastern now serves as a model university in their response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and they're a glimmer of hope for education in these trying times.
I have a lot of Husky pride, and I have since I started here, but even more so now, just seeing the way that Northeastern has handled COVID.
Overall, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think things were being handled properly and things weren't safe, and I am here.
There were other schools that were committing to plans and then having to backtrack, and that blows up people's lives. It wastes money, it wastes time, it wastes effort. And Northeastern didn't do that, and they were very clear in their communication with the faculty about what they could commit to and what they were still deciding, and I think that we all appreciated that.
How do we ensure that the entire community, faculty, staff, students, vendors, alumni, friends of the university, how do we ensure that they are all working together to ensure the well-being of themselves individually and then everyone collectively in terms of public health? So the idea there is we're all in this together. If we don't get the message across that this is a community that has to all pull in the same direction, it doesn't take many for it to be a real problem.
The issue is you can never address all of the risks. You need to rely on the people that are within that system to really execute the plan, right? To hold each other accountable, to support each other, to keep each other safe, and to have empathy for each other.
I think their ability to get students back on campus and to maintain a safe environment for faculty, staff, and students is without compare, right? I mean, there are other universities that are still open, but there were so many that fell like dominoes at the beginning of the semester, and I'm so fortunate to work at a place that really crossed every T and dotted every I and made sure that they took every precaution necessary to keep us safe.
I'm as happy as I can be. I mean, we're here, we're learning, things are moving forward. We don't have massive outbreaks. It seems relatively safe. I mean, that's the most we can hope for under these trying circumstances.
The student spirits seem to be high. I've been especially impressed by the students who participate over Zoom. I've had students say to me that they're just so happy to be back in class. They're happy to have structure again. Just to be part of a community, even if that's remote. I think having those kinds of schedules and routines back in place seem to be really beneficial for students.
I think our students are strong and they're really soldiering through and making the best of this.
everyone is buying into this. And I think that, that's really what the whole protect the pack mentality is. And I'm just so happy to see everyone buying in and it resulting in such a successful semester.
This was let's get this done, and we're going to do it together. And I think I'm very proud to be at Northeastern, and I'm immensely optimistic about the future of this university, which has a tremendous appetite for embracing change. But I think this has really galvanized us, and I really think it sets the stage for Northeastern to have an extraordinary future.